Once upon a time, there lived a fisherman. He lived in a tiny shack by the ocean and worked hard every day to catch enough fish to feed his many children.
One day, as the fisherman cast his line into the water, he felt a tug.
And he reeled in his catch.
When all of a sudden, caught on his hook, the fisherman discovered a golden fish, unlike any fish he had ever seen before.
However, the fisherman's surprise grew when the golden fish opened its mouth and began to speak.
"Please," said the golden fish, "release me from your hook. Set me free in the water, and I will grant you whatever you wish."
The fisherman had not caught many fish that day, but still, he took pity on the golden fish and decided to let him free.
As soon as the golden fish was safe in the water, it turned to the fisherman and said, "Thank you, sir, for setting me free. Now, what is it that you wish? And I will make it be."
The fisherman thought of his family, crowded into their old rundown shack, and he knew what to wish for. "Golden fish, I wish for a nice big house for my family."
"And so it will be," said the golden fish. "I hope you enjoy your wish. And if you ever need me, call out to the waves and I will come."
The fisherman hurried home to tell his family about the golden fish. When he arrived, he couldn't believe his eyes. Where once stood his tiny shack, there was now a big, beautiful house with plenty of room for his many children.
The fisherman told his family all about his wish for a new house, which the golden fish had clearly granted.
For a while, the fisherman's family lived happily in their home. But before long, the fisherman's sons and daughters began to complain.
"Dad, why didn't you ask for a bigger house? We want a mansion with fine clothes and fancy things."
So the fisherman hurried back to the ocean and called out to the golden fish.
With a splash, the golden fish peeked its head out of the water. "I see you've returned," said the fish. "What is it that you need?"
"Well," said the fisherman, "thank you for the house, but what we really need is an enormous mansion filled with fancy clothes and fine things."
"And so it will be," said the golden fish. "I hope that this time you truly enjoy your wish. But if you ever need my help, call out to the waves and I will come."
The fisherman ran back to his family and found an enormous mansion filled with the fanciest clothes and the finest things that he and his family could have ever imagined.
The fisherman and his family lived in their mansion, and for a while, they were happy. However, not very long after, the fisherman's sons and daughters began to complain again.
"Dad, why didn't you ask the golden fish for a palace? We want a golden palace and a kingdom to rule too."
And so the fisherman returned to the ocean,
And called out to the golden fish.
and with a splash, the golden fish emerged from the water. "I see you've returned again," said the golden fish. "What could you possibly need now?"
"Well," said the fisherman, "I wanted to thank you for the mansion. But what we really need is a castle and a great big kingdom to rule."
"Ah," said the golden fish, "I think I know exactly what your family needs. Go, fisherman, and do not call me again."
So the fisherman hurried back home. But when he arrived, there was no castle. There was no mansion, not even a house. All that remained was a tiny shack.
And so the fisherman ran back to the ocean and pleaded and begged for the golden fish to return.
But the golden fish never appeared again.
And so the fisherman and his family, they returned to their tiny shack by the ocean. And they had no fancy clothes and no fine things.
But they had each other. And that was what the golden fish said. That, indeed, was exactly what they needed. The end.
Swim closer, children. I have a story for you.
Story time!
Tell it.
I will. Okay. Once upon a time, very, very deep in the clear blue sea, there lived a little mermaid.
I know this story.
Maybe. But this story has been told by humans and merfolk for hundreds of years, and every time it's told, it's a little bit different.
Tell it, please.
Okay, so this little mermaid lived with her big sisters and her father.
King Triton, ruler of the ocean.
That's right. Her father ruled over all the creatures of the ocean, that is, except the wicked sea witch who was jealous of his power. Now, this little mermaid was a bright, thoughtful girl who was always asking questions about the world above the ocean. She carefully collected and studied all of the land objects that sank down to the ocean floor, like a ship's anchor, a fork, and especially a statue of a boy who had no fish tail, but instead 2 long legs on which to stand. At last, the little mermaid came of age and was allowed to rise up and explore the surface of the ocean. And there, she saw an enormous ship where a human prince was celebrating his birthday as well. As the little mermaid watched in wonder, a terrible storm struck, and the crashing waves knocked the prince from his ship. But the brave little mermaid battled the waves and swam with the prince to a nearby beach. Once the prince was safe on shore, the little mermaid sang him a song more beautiful than any human had ever heard before. But just as the prince was about to open his eyes, a search party of humans arrived and the little mermaid leapt back into the sea.
So the prince never got to see who saved his life.
That's right. But the prince was determined to find this brave young woman whose beautiful voice he would never forget. And the little mermaid, who had also fallen in love with the prince, was now more determined than ever to find a way to live on land.
Sea witch.
That's right. The little mermaid went to the sea witch and begged her for a way to become human. The sea witch agreed to give the little mermaid legs, but only if the little mermaid gave the witch her beautiful voice. And worse, if the prince did not return the little mermaid's love and ever married another, the little mermaid would have to return to the ocean and belong to the sea witch forever.
Why would she agree to that?
Well, the little mermaid was brave and determined, and she might not have thought through all of the bad things that could happen. Plus, she was in love.
Ew.
In any case, the little mermaid agreed to the sea witch's deal and was given legs. And finally able to leave the ocean, the little mermaid was thrilled to be able to explore the wide world above. She met the prince, who thought that there was something special about this young woman, although she could no longer speak to tell the prince that she was the one who saved his life. Still, the prince welcomed the little mermaid into his palace, where he was struck by her kindness, her sense of humor, and especially her interest in absolutely everything.
Uh-oh.
That's right. The sea witch grew worried that the prince would marry the little mermaid, so she used her wicked magic to give a visiting princess the little mermaid's voice. And upon hearing that beautiful voice, the prince thought that he had found the young woman who saved his life, and so he made plans to marry the human princess.
Couldn't she write him a note or draw a picture or something?
Well, the Little Mermaid did have one possibility. The Little Mermaid's sisters had gone to the sea witch and given her all of their beautiful hair in exchange for a dagger, which the Little Mermaid could use to stab the human princess and stop the wedding. But even though the Little Mermaid knew that she would have to return to the ocean and belong to the Sea Witch, the Little Mermaid would not hurt the human princess. On the day of the wedding, the Sea Witch came to claim the Little Mermaid. But the brave Little Mermaid used the magical dagger to stab the Sea Witch. And with that blow, the Sea Witch lost her power over the Little Mermaid and her voice returned. And the prince realized that it was the Little Mermaid who had saved him. And together, they battled the Sea Witch.
The Sea Witch was defeated.
That's right! The Little Mermaid was able to stay human, and she and the prince became wonderful rulers over their kingdom on land. But they also liked visiting her family's kingdom under the sea.
And they lived happily ever after?
Yes, they all lived happily ever after.
That story was okay. Do you know any scarier ones?
Well, once upon a time, there lived 3 little pigs in a cozy farmhouse with their mother. One day, Mama Pig called her children together and said, "Okay, little pigs, you are all grown up. It's time for you to go out into the world and build houses of your own. But beware of the big bad wolf. Build your houses safe and strong, for if he catches you, he'll gobble you up." So the 3 little pigs set out on their journey, and they first came to a field of straw. The first little pig saw the bales of straw and said, "Why, I'll stack this straw into a house nice and quick." And so he said goodbye to his brother and his sister, and in no time at all, he had built a house of straw, and he went inside to relax. The next 2 pigs, they continued on their journey until they came to a forest. Looking around at all of the sticks of the forest, the second little pig said, "Why, I'll use these sticks to build a house that's much stronger than straw. And plus, it'll take me no time at all." So the second little pig set to work on her house of sticks. It took her a little longer, but in no time she was finished and went into her house to relax. Now, the third little pig was growing very tired, but he continued on the journey until he came to a small town. And he looked around and he saw that there were lots of houses built of bricks. And he thought to himself, "Why, I'll build a house of bricks that's sturdy and strong." And so he set to work. And he worked long and hard on this house. But at last, he finally finished and had a strong house of bricks. And he went inside to relax. Now, just a few days later, the 3 little pigs heard that the big bad wolf was seen nearby. And remembering their mother's warning, the 3 little pigs, they went inside their house and hid from the wolf, hoping to be safe. Now, the big bad wolf was out hunting for his dinner and sniffing around until he caught the scent of the first little pig who was hiding inside his house of straw. That hungry wolf, he walked right up to the door and he knocked on the door and he said, little pig, let me come in." Huddled nervously inside, the first little pig cried out, "Not by the hairs on my chinny chin." The big bad wolf showed his long, sharp teeth, and he said, "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." So he took a deep breath and blew as hard as he could, and the house of straw flew to pieces with bits of straw flying everywhere, leaving that first little pig with no protection from the wolf. And so he squealed and he ran as fast as he could through the forest to his sister's house of sticks. And together they hid from the wolf. Well, That wolf was growing very hungry, and so he chased after that little pig through the forest until he got to the house of sticks. He growled and he knocked on the door and he said, little pigs, let me come in. And the two little pigs, they hugged each other and they cried out, not by the hairs on our chinny chin chins. Oh, that big bad wolf was very hungry. So he licked his lips and rubbed his belly and he growled, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. So he took a deep breath and blew as hard as he could. And that house of sticks, it shook, but it didn't break. And so the big bad wolf took another big deep breath and blew as hard as he could, and that house of sticks flew to pieces, leaving the two little pigs with nothing to protect them from the wolf. And so they squealed and they ran as fast as they could through the forest and into town to hide in their brother's house of bricks. Oh, but the big bad wolf, he chased those little pigs through the forest and into town. And he got to that door and he rapped on it and he growled, little pigs, let me come in. And the three little pigs huddled inside. They cried out, not by the hairs on our chinny chin chins. And the big bad wolf, he growled, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. So he took a big deep breath and blew as hard as he could. But that house of bricks, it stood strong. Oh, the big bad wolf, he took a bigger, deeper breath and blew as hard as he could, but the house of bricks, it didn't budge. The third little pig, he laughed with pride and he said, listen here, wolf, my house of bricks is much too strong to be blown down. And now it's your turn to run. There are no bullies allowed in this town. And so the three little pigs, they burst out of their house, and all the other animals in the village did as well. And so together, the three little pigs and all their friends, they chased that big bad wolf right out of town. And he never bothered the three little pigs ever again. The end.
Mother Goose Club Playhouse.